The conference that I'm happy to open now is titled, "Is the Future of International Criminal Law Domestic?" And it is one of the first statements of Luis Moreno Ocampo, the first prosecutor, who said the court works at its best if it does not have any cases, because the Rome Statute foresees that cases are dealt with in the countries where the crime is concerned or in national jurisdictions. Now, where we are on this way to this, what the achievements are, maybe the challenges, that's the topic of this conference that we are going to discuss in the next 2 days. And I'm pretty sure that given this distinguished speakers list and panelists list, is going to be a very, very interesting and inspiring conference. The program today starts with welcome remarks from our 3 founders, the Federal Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Free State of Bavaria, and the city of Nuremberg. Unfortunately, the deputy mayor of the city of Nuremberg is not able to join us in person, but she will join us via a video statement, and the welcome remarks will be concluded by our dear President of the Advisory Council, Dr. Navatem Pillai, who is today with us, and I'm very happy that all of you are here. Without further ado, I would give the floor for the welcome remarks to Dr. Eichstarter.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rackwitz. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to be here for the opening of the spring conference of the Nuremberg Academy. The last time I had the honor to participate at an event of the Academy is less than 3 months ago. On 22nd February, we discussed the launch of the publication, The Past, Present and Future of the International Criminal Court. And we were discussing about the court's central role in the fight against impunity, other accountability mechanisms, and national prosecutions. And of course, just 2 days later, on 24th February, for many, the world changed. Russia began its aggressive war against Ukraine. This armed attack, which is still ongoing, marks a watershed. Certainly, as Foreign Minister Baerbock pointed out, this war is not just about Ukraine, it is about all of us. And this war and the horrors that people in Ukraine are facing on a daily basis raises the issue of accountability. Here, the response of the international community has been swift. 43 ICC state parties formally referred the situation in Ukraine to the prosecutor to allow an immediate start of investigations. Prosecutor Karim Khan, who will also contribute to this conference later this afternoon, is currently conducting investigations in Ukraine. Many states have heeded the call of the prosecutor that his office needs additional resources to carry out his work as effectively as possible, not only in Ukraine. Germany is supporting the court with an additional 1 million euros as a voluntary contribution this year, and we are also preparing to second national experts to the office of the prosecutor. Since this conference will also focus on the role of domestic actors, I would like to mention that the Federal Public Prosecutor General has launched a structural investigation regarding war crimes in Ukraine, and I look forward to Federal Prosecutor Dushak Khmel's keynote address this afternoon. Ms. Khmel and her colleagues at the Federal Public Prosecutor General have received international praise for advancing proceedings under universal jurisdiction before German courts. They are international frontrunners in achieving accountability for members of Daesh or the Syrian regime. The situation after the Russian aggression against Ukraine may be different, and perpetrators may be warned that Germany is no safe haven. But with this solid background, I'm confident that the Federal Public Prosecutor General will play an important role in achieving accountability for international crimes committed in Ukraine. Ladies and gentlemen, it has become clear that complementarity represents a basic part of our international criminal justice architecture. We must do everything we can at all levels to the best of our abilities to fight against impunity for crimes under international law. Over the years, state parties and the court have built significant expertise in managing their relations, including domestic prosecutorial systems, for the sake of optimizing the vertical distribution of labor and of prosecutorial resources. At the same time, it is mainly upon the states themselves to become even more active to strengthen their capacities to meaningfully prosecute crimes under international law. This horizontal cooperation may also pertain to various forms of capacity building. In this respect, the Nuremberg Academy is playing an active role, for example, by bringing together young lawyers and prosecutors from conflict and post-conflict countries with the aim to better understand and apply international criminal law in their respective jurisdiction. Ladies and gentlemen, this conference is about to start, but I'm afraid that we have to say farewell to Dr. Klaus Rackwitz as director of this academy. Dear Dr. Rackwitz, when you started as director in September 2016, this academy was still very young. Established in 2014 as a foundation by the Free State of Bavaria, the city of Nuremberg, and the Federal Republic of Germany. On the basis of your broad experience with the ICC and also with Eurojust, you have contributed immensely to the construction of this institution here in Nuremberg. You have formed the structure of this academy by shaping not only a dedicated team of colleagues, but also a diverse and much appreciated program of activities. It is with a heavy heart that we see you go. On behalf of the Foundation Board, which I have the honor to chair, I would like to thank you very much for everything you have done, and we will miss you. It was an inspiration and a pleasure working with you, and we wish you all the best for the future, and I hope that our paths will cross again. Thank you very much.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, it is a great pleasure and honor for me to welcome you personally in the Palace of Justice in Nuremberg after 2.5 years of enforced abstinence. Direct exchange and personal encounters cannot be effectively replaced by digital conferences. So, welcome to Nuremberg. The time and venue for the spring conference of the International Nuremberg Principles Academy could not have been chosen better. The Second World War ended on May the 8th in 1945, 77 years ago last Monday. In an unprecedented joint effort, the victorious powers agreed not to simply execute the leaders of the Nazi regime, but to sentence them in a legal process based on the rule of law. The worst mass murderers in human history were put on trial here in Nuremberg. The last surviving contemporary witness to the Nuremberg war crimes trials is Benjamin Ferenc, now 102 years old and at the time chief prosecutor in the so-called task force trial, Einsatzgruppenprozess in German. His guiding principle was and is, make law, not war. Ben Ferenc also made the following statements: if humanity is to survive, it must accept the rule of law, and we must protect the right for all people in every country to live in peace and dignity. How true, how convincing, how universal. Who would disagree with Ben Ferenc? And yet, another war is taking place, a war quite close to us. Cruel, violent and inhuman. The war that Russia is waging against Ukraine gives Ben Ferenc's words a highly current relevance. In Central Europe, we took it for granted that military conflicts take place in a safe distance and would not affect us, at least not directly. I too had this deceptive certainty. This certainty no longer exists. Russia's military attack on Ukraine is a barbaric breach of civilization that cannot be justified by anything. It is a serious violation of the international ban of violence. In this war, hospitals, schools, and civilian facilities are obviously being bombed, and civilians are being deliberately killed or kidnapped. Vladimir Putin openly threatens the world with a possible nuclear strike and an escalation to World War III. The Russian government has lost red lines of decency and humanity. I am personally not an expert on international criminal law. Nevertheless, it is obvious to me that Russia's actions violate international criminal law norms to a considerable extent. The threat of punishment under international criminal law was not able to prevent Russia's attack and the crimes committed by Russian armed forces, as Ben Ferenc had hoped. But with all the horror and all the human suffering, it is at least a small comfort that the mechanisms of international law and also international criminal law seem to work. The international legal order is being shaken by the war of aggression against Ukraine, but it is not put out of order. Already on February the 25th in this year, the Council of Europe's Committee of Ministers suspended the representation rights of the Russian Federation in the Committee of Ministers and the Parliamentary Assembly with immediate effect. On March the 1st, the European Court of Human Rights ruled that Russia must terminate military attacks against civilians and civilian objects and comply with international humanitarian law. On March the 2nd, a total of 141 countries on the United Nations General Assembly voted in favor of a resolution which takes a strong position against Russia's war of aggression and demands that Russia immediately withdraw all of its military forces from the territory of Ukraine. On March the 4th, the UN Human Rights Council established a commission to investigate alleged violations of human rights and international humanitarian law in Ukraine, to collect evidence and to identify the persons reasonable for crimes. On March the 16th, the Council of Europe's Committee of Ministers excluded Russia from the Council of Europe with immediate effect. The Ukrainian government has brought a case against Russia, Mr. Eich mentioned it, before the International Court of Justice, in which the ICJ ruled on March the 16th within a summary proceeding that Russia must immediately stop the violence in Ukraine. The opening of criminal investigation on March the 2nd by the chief prosecutor of the International Criminal Court because of the situation in the Ukraine shows the determination of the international judiciary not to ignore Russia's war of aggression. And finally, the Federal Prosecutor General of Germany has initiated a so-called structural investigation procedure based on the principle of universal jurisdiction. This means that investigators are gathering information and securing evidence on crimes under international law in Ukraine. And there we are in the middle of the topic of your conference. All those measures will not end the war, but they still have an effect. Russia's power elite is already isolated on the international stage. It can no longer travel freely, at least not to the 123 states that have signed the Statute of the International Criminal Court. Other important factors are, of course, the far-reaching economic sanctions adopted at various levels. It is already clear that the international criminal justice system, as well as national investigative authorities, have become very important political factors, perhaps today even more than ever in a military conflict. In view of the above, there is justified hope that the crimes committed during this war will not remain unpunished. As the German Justice Minister Buschmann said, even when the weapons speak, the law is not silent. I fully agree with these remarks. Finally, let me address Director Klaus Rackwitz, who will be taking his well-deserved retirement at the end of June 2022. Dear Klaus Rackwitz, on behalf of the Free State of Bavaria and the Nuremberg judiciary, I would like to thank you very much from the bottom of my heart for your excellent work. You got the Academy on track, made it known internationally and also regionally, and developed it into a recognized platform for players and for topics of international criminal law and human rights. Thank you very much for the good neighborhood and the trusting cooperation. I wish you the very best in your retirement, above all health, optimism and contentment. As a reminder of your time in Nuremberg and your workplace here in the Nuremberg Palace of Justice, you will afterwards receive a package from me with a photo of Courtroom 600 and several books on the history of this Palace of Justice, and also a Nuremberg guide to the 111 most beautiful places in the city. So you should see this as an invitation to come back and visit us again. You should know that you and your wife are always welcome in the Nuremberg Palace of Justice and also in my personal office. So, at the end, I wish all of you and your conference a good and fruitful course and a pleasant stay in the beautiful city of Nuremberg. Thank you very much.
Sehr geehrter Herr Rackwitz, meine sehr verehrten Damen und Herren, die letzten Wochen haben auf mehr als dramatische Art und Weise gezeigt, wie wichtig das Völkerrecht ist. Fassungslosigkeit, Wut und Trauer sind vorherrschende Gefühle angesichts eines so dreisten wie auch brutalen Bruchs fundamentaler Regeln des Zusammenlebens der Nationen und internationaler Verträge. Als Nürnbergerinnen und Nürnberger schmerzt es uns natürlich sehr, dass unsere Partnerstadt Charkiw besonders hart vom Krieg betroffen worden ist. Die Bilder sehen wir täglich. Schon am 25. Februar diesen Jahres, also am Tag nach dem russischen Überfall auf die Ukraine, hatte der Chefankläger vor dem Internationalen Strafgericht in Den Haag, der britische Kronanwalt Karim Khan, angekündigt, völkerrechtliche Verbrechen zu verfolgen, die auf dem Gebiet der Ukraine seit 2014 begangen werden. Für die Ahndung solcher Verbrechen ist das Internationale Gericht in Den Haag geschaffen worden. Der Rechtsgrundlage des Internationalen Strafgerichtshofs, dem sogenannten Rom-Statut, sind über 120 Mitgliederstaaten beigetreten. Und alle diese Länder sind, in Ergänzung der Tätigkeiten des Internationalen Strafgerichtshofs, auch befugt, Verbrechen, die durch diese Rechtsgrundlage erfasst werden und die durch ihre entsprechende Jurisdiktion abgedeckt sind, vor nationalen Gerichten zu verfolgen. Deutschland verfolgt über das Völkerstrafgesetzbuch und Deutschland hat das bereits getan. Auch andere Nationen haben vor ihren internationalen Gerichten schon internationale Verbrechen verhandelt. Das Thema der Frühlingskonferenz der Internationalen Akademie Nürnberger Prinzipien könnte also gar nicht aktueller sein. Is the future of international criminal law domestic? In Deutschland wollen wir die Kapazitäten bei Verfahren nach dem Völkerstrafgesetzbuch ausbauen. Dieser Satz im aktuellen Koalitionsvertrag der Bundesregierung ist eine Selbstverpflichtung. Sie bedeutet die Ausweitung eines zweiten Strangs des Völkerstrafrechts, die Ahndung internationaler Verbrechen vor nationalen Gerichten. Dies erfordert einen politischen Willen. Die individuelle Grundlage dafür ist das Weltrechtsprinzip. Kodifiziert ist dieses in Deutschland unter anderem im ersten Paragraphen des Völkerstrafgesetzbuchs. Nürnberg versteht sich als die Stadt des Friedens und der Menschenrechte. Und aus dieser Stadt, aus diesem Gebäude, dem Justizpalast in Nürnberg, in dem der Internationale Militärgerichtshof tagte, ging vor 77 Jahren ein Signal aus. Ein Signal, dass Multilateralismus und die Verrechtlichung der Beziehungen der Nationen untereinander möglich sind. Dass das Recht über der Macht steht. Dies bedeutete nichts weniger als einen zivilisatorischen Fortschritt. Wichtige internationale Akteure beteiligten sich nicht am Internationalen Strafgerichtshof. Der Anspruch des Rechts nach Allgemeingültigkeit ist in Gefahr. Hiermit fallen wir hinter eine schon einmal erreichte Etappe des Fortschritts zurück. Dies zu kompensieren können vielleicht die nationalen Gerichte beitragen. Die Welt wird Zeugin unerträglicher Verbrechen, seien dies der Völkermord an den Rohingya, den brutalen Kriegsverbrechen in Syrien oder jüngst und für uns Europäerinnen und Europäer besonders verstörend der Angriffskrieg gegen die Ukraine. Is the future of international criminal law domestic? Fragt die Internationale Akademie Nürnberger Prinzipien in den nächsten Tagen. Antworten auf die Fragen nach der Zukunftsfähigkeit des Völkerstrafrechts waren nie dringender nötig als zurzeit. Ich wünsche Ihrer Konferenz deshalb eine größtmögliche Resonanz. Ich wünsche Ihnen fruchtbare Diskussionen und uns allen wünsche ich Antworten.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very pleased to welcome you again to Nuremberg on behalf of the Advisory Council of the Academy, and many of us are present here today. It has been a long journey through this pandemic, but it seems, cautiously speaking, that we may finally be at the end of it. Although it's beginning, I heard this morning, in North Korea, where they've had their first case. So I'm sorry for you, Judge Song, you're the nearest neighbor there to North Korea. So, I mean, we will all acknowledge that the pandemic changed many things, but also underscored the durable value of the essentials, including of spending time together in pursuit of making the world a better place. So I am very hopeful that this conference will make a contribution to that effort in these coming days. I have had the privilege of serving as a judge on the International Criminal Court since its foundation in 2002. It has been a source of pride and the contributions that we made in many ways. But the ICC would not exist if it hadn't been for the many people who devoted many years to its successful functioning. This invisible network of diplomats, functionaries, and experts such as you, they may not be well known outside of our professional circuits, but their contributions are no less profound because they represent the community that the IC needs not only to survive but to thrive. So I would like also to take this moment on behalf of the Council, Advisory Council, to pay tribute to one such expert, our own Klaus Rackwitz, who is retiring from the Academy in June, and he will be dearly missed, although he is moving on to a period of rest and reflection that is truly deserved. He has promised us that he will come as frequently as possible not attracted by the 100 sites that Dr. Dicker counted, but for the core work that you built up here. So like myself, Klaus was there from the start. Klaus joined the advanced team in 2002 to set up the new institution, I mean the ICC, and joined by Sam Muller, Paquiso Mochochoco, and Claudia Perdomo in a small room in the Dutch Ministry of Foreign Affairs, even before the temporary facilities at the Ark were secured. This small group had to invent the court really from scratch. There were rooms but no furniture, a space for a cafeteria but no services, rules of procedure and evidence to follow but no precedent. An institution is only as real as the physical foundation on which it sits. The ICC was in many ways something that Klaus and his few compatriots had to conjure up from thin air. Klaus went on to join the Naskent office of the prosecutor, serving from January 2003 to September 2011 as its senior administrative manager, responsible for all administrative and support matters, from information management to evidence handling, from language services to human resources, overseeing a budget that grew by millions each year to eventually reach its current level of nearly 50 million euros. Klaus went on from the ICC from 2011 to 2016 to serve as Administrative Director of Eurojust, which is fitting in this forum to recognize, given that the Academy has partnered with the Genocide Support Network hosted by Eurojust to organize this event. Klaus's efforts with Eurojust to support the efforts of national investigators and prosecutors pursuing accountability for international crimes underscores his ongoing commitment to lasting justice. I'm sure that our colleagues from Eurojust would agree that Klaus's contributions have been indispensable. So I've been honored and very pleased to work again with Klaus here at the Academy. As with our previous encounters, he has proved to be consummately professional, but perhaps more importantly, unfailingly kind. He has worked diligently to draw in as many people as he can. He has made the publications of the Academy available worldwide free of charge. The programs the Academy runs all attest to the practical steps he has taken to make the dream of an international community a real thing. So let me conclude, dear Klaus, by expressing our gratitude for all that you have contributed. On behalf of all of us, I wish you the best in whatever is to come. You will always have a home in Nuremberg, in The Hague, and in the hearts of all the people whose lives you have touched. So can I ask you to come forward here, Klaus? We would like to make presentations to Klaus. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hold it very well.
Jetzt noch das OLG-Erinnerungspackage. Schwer für Sie. Machen wir 5.
I wasn't sure whether this is a funeral or a marriage with so many flowers, but I can promise you I'm still alive. I'm most grateful for your kind words, and serving this Academy was a matter and is a matter of heart, and I think that I was able to contribute a little bit, of which I'm proud, but that would not be possible without all of you.